Hey everybody, thanks for stopping back in at the Red Barn. First, I want to say thank you very much for all the comments. It's great to hear your suggestions. It really helps me see things from a different perspective and kind of break out of my own thought process, which I find really helpful. So please keep those comments coming. So this episode, I expect I'm going to be bouncing around on a bunch of stuff. I've got some shifter cable components to finalize. The trailing arms are here from Mr. Foley, so we get to unpack those and see what's what. I have some stub axle work I got to finish, and then I really want to get started on the trunk liner. So let me know what you think about that. If you like fewer topics and more detail about each topic, or if multiple things in kind of a skim level is enjoyable to you. Again, subscribe if you haven't. Keep those comments coming. Give me a like. Give me a share. That really helps out the channel. And let's get going. We got a lot to cover this time. Back at the Secret Undisclosed shop, and what we're doing here is these are the Ferrari cable ends, and they are wider in this gap and deeper in this gap than the control cable, what I call the collars. So, say hi, Martin.
Howdy doody.
Martin's here. We're back to the lathe, and we have to widen and deepen. So, a little machine work happening. Done?
Yep, I'm sure that'll serve you well.
Finally, something that doesn't take 4 hours. And that is that. And with that happy little demo, having machined those collars, everything's now adjusted because this is working really well right now. So, shifter cables are all the way 100% done, and we now know that those are going to work. I think I do like that shifter column tilted. And really, unless I'm going to make it so that the shifter can be easily tilted, like I'm imagining like a magical knob that raises it and moves it forward. I don't know if that's even possible or practical. It's not practical for sure. But if I have to disassemble everything to change that, it's probably not worth maintaining its adjustability. It's probably going to be figure out where I like it and then just make a console base that works at that level. So that's probably where that's going. One of the comments that I got was someone said that shifter looks like it's close to the steering wheel, and here I just wanted to show you it's that far away. So it's, as I think Colin Chapman said, hands distance. Now that's in the 3/4 plane. So if it's in first gear, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. I don't think reverse counts. That's real close, but I'm not going that fast going backwards. And it's like I say, it's not too close. I like it. But now I'm getting dangerously close to having to make some decisions about things like the electronics package. I'd be interested in what you guys, if anybody's got experience with this, I'm sure some of you do. Motec would be the super duper Mac Daddy, but it's really expensive, and there's a bunch of firmware and a bunch of other stuff that is consistently, I don't know, not twice as much, but lots much more than some of the other very quality possible contenders. So I think I'm down to Haltech, their Nexus series, or the ECU Master Pro. Link gets a lot of positive comments, but the guys that I happen to know, and the tuners that I've talked to, have had experience with the Haltechs and ECU Master stuff. So I'm leaning in that direction. If anybody has experience with either of those, let me know, and I'd be interested in some feedback on that. Chris Foley, Tangerine Racing. Our decambered trailing arms are here. So let's do the always exciting unboxing. A decambered trailing arm. It's not like you can see it, the decamberedness, but as you saw in the earlier episode, this is where it's been cut, plated, twisted. And something else I might have not mentioned before is these are, I'm assuming these are Delrin, but they're like zero stiction. And the factory ones are rubber and they're stiction, and stiction is not great for suspension, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, Zerk fittings, the passage is drilled through the Delrin, and so you grease these. There's one on this side too. This is a better look at that gusset that I mentioned. So you can see that is not an insignificant chunk of reinforcement that's wrapped all the way around that and extends all the way out to this point on the arm. And again, the factory one comes to here. So pretty substantial upgrade. There you go. So we have our decambered trailing arms, and now we can measure for the custom axle length. And then those will get ordered. So as I said, making great progress. Okay, so the first of the new trailing arms is on the car. And if this doesn't start to make you ill, I don't know what will, but we got like the orange next to the raspberry, next to the red. And oh my God, you know, this is not the color palette I was looking for. But anyway, the next step was I started thinking, okay, I might as well get everything prepped for the stub axles to go in there. So that is no bueno. What happens oftentimes, this is the same thing that happened with the LS car. And pull this axle out. These axles have, you can see, there's this thrust surface, which is what actually gets clamped down, if you want to call it that, which is what it mounts against. So I made two of these, and this allows us to get this thrust dimension correct. And you can see, if I take you right down here, that with this side put on, again, this is put on, and this is mimicking the mounting surface on either side of the trailing arm. And if I push it all the way flush against that, what you can see is that the other thrust surface is proud of that bushing. And this is not uncommon because these are old cars, and each one of these trailing arms is slightly different. Each one of these bushings that you get from different manufacturers is slightly different, and even these axle shafts probably vary. But anyway, it's a simple-ish matter of, I got a couple of these discs that you just saw on the other side, and what we'll do is we'll just put them on here. And what you can see now, that's how much play there is. And there should be, depends on who you talk to, but you know, anywhere between, you know, like 10 and 20 thousandths is undetectable when you're driving the car, but this is way more than that. So I'm gonna have our good friend Martin do a little more machining work, and we'll just get this down to the right dimension on both sides, and we'll have a matched axle to each trailing arm, and we'll be all set. All right, these are the stub axles that I got, and what you're seeing here is this is one of the axles that it came off of. And in the perfect world, I would have gotten the turbo models of these, which are 6 threaded holes. These, unfortunately, not that bad, but these have 2 positions for roll pins. And a roll pin is what it sounds like. It's this thing right here, and it's literally a rolled up piece of metal that's shoved in that hole. And it takes the place of a fastener and resists the shearing force of the twist here. So I'm going to go ahead and take these out of here. And when I was looking into this, this is not my idea, but somebody said, Because how do you do it, right? And maybe you guys know this, but I didn't. And the idea here is, on goes a drill motor. Bam, came right out. And now instead of unrolling, it's kind of held in place. And I just tidied up the holes in here. And now I'm going to give it a little bit of a, just get it set down in there a little bit to keep it from unrolling. Always remember to use your drill as a hammer. And then these have a decent little flat spot on the back. And I'm just gonna use the vise to set it. And it pretty much just bottoms out. And now I've got a roll pin set in there. And now I have 2 roll pinned positions, all set for 6 shear points. Done. Okay, stub axle. One important thing, 911 stub axle in a 914 trailing arm needs this spacer. And then in it slides. It's a little bit, normally what would happen is the axle will be put on, but I can't, obviously I don't have axles. I got to get custom ones made. So this would normally happen outside the car, and then you can just hold the axle. So this is a little bit fiddly to try to get this in there. Trying to guide it with my hand coming, or my finger coming through the opening from the other side, but there we go. All right, so that's in there. Not rocket science, just a nice big washer and then the castellated nut. And I'm not going to torque these down. There's no need to for right now, because all I'm doing is getting them snugged. Okay, and now once everything's tightened down and in place, we're all set. What I'll do is I'll get the 90 out, straight out from the output flange, and measure the distance from the inside of that cup to the inside of this cup on the stub axle, and that'll be the length that we work with to do the calculations for the custom axles. So we are getting there. All right, so this is really just a view into my process, whatever you want to call my process. I'm just trying to get a feel for the one section of the trunk. Now this is obviously super plain and super regular bendies. I think this is too tight a radius here. Probably not too tight here because I want as much floor space in the trunk as I can get. But this just kind of gives you the idea of this raised section. And then this is the hump up over the, and it needs to be high because that fitting, see right now it's hard against that fitting, so it needs to sit up higher than this. I got all kinds of stuff to figure out, but the roof fits on there. So yeah, I'm gonna keep playing with this and see what I think, but I don't hate it. And yeah, like I said, it looks kind of plain, but it'll have some sort of embossing in it. I don't know. It's a trunk after all, right? So I don't want to go too crazy. And so anyway, that's step 1 in the books. Version 1 of step 1 in the books anyway. Okay, now this is horrible, but I just, like I said, I got to get a picture of what it sort of is going to feel like. But this kind of gets you seeing what I'm seeing, which is the general shape. And all I'm worried about right now is the general shape and kind of the idea. So, like I said before, I don't hate it. I'm not thrilled with this section. This is kind of what it is. I mean, it's going to be a hump. It's going to be a hump. But I think this needs to be a lot more visually interesting. And I think what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to break this all up into pieces and work on just from here forward and see if I can come up with something I like. I think this is going to be okay, but I got to work on that section. So let me get going on that. I mentioned I didn't like the radius. It was too sharp coming around the corner off the back of the air oil separator. So here I'm going to try something. This is the mag brake. And it can double as a radius brake. And what I'm going to do here is I've got a 1-inch tube, 1-inch, well, pipe. Doesn't really matter. I'm just playing with the radius. I'll work out exactly what I want it to be. But anyway, I got a block of metal. This is going to be clamped down. This is obviously magnetic as well, so it'll clamp down. And what you do is you just line up. I've got where I want my bend to be. And I'm going to go ahead and bend it. And what happens is, because of that gap at the radius, it starts to bend this material up, and it won't do anything until it follows the radius of whatever tube you got in here. So now I am gonna bend this thing. And this aluminum should just walk right up around there. We end up with a nice soft radius versus, you know, a traditional bend. And I can put, you know, whatever size. If I like something a little bigger than this, I can go with a larger diameter tube, whatever. But there we go. Let's go see how this starts to look. Now, the other thing I'm going to try in this version is I'm just going to go with this plate. This is, again, just this random shape I happen to have, but it serves the purpose of being like if I was to attach, literally get a piece of aluminum and weld it onto the air oil separator to be the base for this removable liner. Here you can see what I'm up to. This would just sit down against this. This would have a little cup in it. And I was thinking about this last night. It's not like I'm going to do an oil change without taking the trunk liner out of the car. It should come out easy enough that it's not that big a deal. So having this, me worrying about like this being like, oh, an oil catch if I'm putting oil in here, I may do that, but you know, we'll see. But this is a whole different look. Oh, the other thing is, this is super cool. Well, maybe it is. It might be overdone, but this is a component. A buddy of mine built his own motorcycle from scratch. Maybe I'll show you that in a little bit. But this is one of the sprocket carriers, and it's just this lovely, lovely piece. And so what I did was I sized this hole such that I could do something crazy like that and maybe have this kind of a countersunk element be part of the design theme for the car. It might be too much. Don't worry about it for now. I just thought it was cool looking and thought, oh, look at that. It's the right size for the Ferrari cap. But it really does give a nice kind of formal finish. I'm getting distracted, but a neat little piece. Oh, I could do something over here and the same thing. Look at me, I'm out of control on stuff that's not important. Okay, so this obviously needs to be opened up a bit, so I'm gonna go open this up. Well, maybe I don't need to go open it up. Maybe I can just open it up here. And it's just gotta be enough to clear this by a teeny bit. Just like that. So there's the dimensions for a potential piece, at least this plane. Now, what I did was I sized it enough that I'm now going to go back and do that same thing. I'm going to roll this edge down and see if I can have it contact in here. Yes, I'll have to mess with this corner. Again, I'm just mocking stuff up. But I think that dimensionally looks a bunch better, don't you? So let me go do some bendy bends and I'll be back. And here's another cool feature of this brake. Some of you guys have commented you like to see the technical side of things. I've slid everything all the way down to the end because I only want to bend the side, I want to leave this back curve here, and I'll work this out later. But I can just slide this thing off the end. For right now, I'm going to go with that same radius and just bend it up around here. And the bending part is just inside of this cut that I made. So I can bring this around. There we go. And now you can see we've got that same radius here. And I'll play with this corner in real life here in a second. But let me go ahead and get the other side bent up. And there it is. It looks so much better when it's not the cheap, quick, super sharp bend. So now let's go look at what this looks like. I really need to figure out what I want to do here. If I want this to just drop straight down. I like that, you know, it's going to be angled here, so I think I need to bring the angle all the way over. So, yeah. But this obviously can't be at this height because the roof has to be there. It can only be about here. So this whole thing's got to drop down anyway. So I'm just going to trim this back. So there it is, trimmed. It looks a lot better, lower and roundier. But I like the way this looks. You know, maybe or maybe not with the fancy schmancy cap on it. But I think I do like the idea that if this, you know, again, this will all be connected, it'll all come out at once, and it just, I think this needs a landing zone, because then I can put a nice big seal, you know, around this or on here or wherever, and when it sets down in here, it'll just seal, and I won't have to worry about that. So I really like where this is headed. I really like the, you know, it's not going to be straight down. It's going to kick out like that a little bit. This will come all the way down. So I think I'm onto something here. I'm going to piece together the rest of it like this, and I think this solves the main problem, or at least the big design element. And there's the next piece in place. And this does a much better job, at least for me, of kind of setting the tone and giving me a better idea of dimension. This is going to have to come back farther because it's right up against this part. This bumps out a little bit, and so this hump has to be big enough to clear this, and right now this starts to tip down too soon. So this piece will have to be remade, but I kind of knew that. But from a general design, I'm liking it a lot. It's really clean looking. Very simple. And if I needed to make a cover for this, I probably could if I wanted to, because yes, this is the, as I think many of you know, this isn't just the oil fill, whoop, it's the dipstick. So yes, there's going to be the chance of dripping oil here. So I either put a little catch tray in there with a drain or something. But I'm really happy with that. I think that looks great. All right, and then as a last little bit, this is where it's going, and I'm liking this. I don't want the ribs, and so I'm going to stitch in this panel, or a panel. Now this is just, you know, in mock-up stage. It'll actually tuck under this, and then I'll treat this corner. There'll just be a little kickback that'll drop straight down. Should look pretty cohesive. And then this gives you an idea. I don't know if you can see it with the reflection, but it would have a fairly simple, just a bead rolled recess in it that just picks up the basic shape, you know, and then picks up this angle here, kind of a thing. And again, just first rough, kind of just giving me some ideas, but I think this is where it's going. You kind of got to squint to make it mint, but I like where that's headed. And it just tidies it up. It makes it much more non-914 looking, which is what I'm after. I don't want those ribs. I think that kind of a shape lends itself, you know, and again, there'd be something interesting here, same thing here, same thing here. And then this is going to have, I think what we're going to do is this is going to be an 1.5 inch radius all the way down this. And then this might be like a 3-inch radius for this big hump. So I'm only kind of working mentally on this half of things, but I'm really liking where it's going. Really liking it. Okay, with that, I think we're going to call this episode done. We certainly covered a bunch of stuff. I got the shift collars nailed down. We got the trailing arms here. We got the trailing arm play figured out. We got the stub axles worked out. Made great progress on the trunk liner. And like I said, let me know. You like the lots of different things, or you want me to focus in on just one thing at a time? Believe me, there's plenty to do. So I can do one, I can do lots. Anyway, let me know what you think. And as always, thanks for watching. Thanks for your comments. Subscribe if you haven't, and we'll catch up with you real soon. Everybody take care now. Bye-bye. I love this car. What a fun build.